This is the end of our trip. We're going back to Punta Arenas, Sandy Point. We started here, went here, in here, like that, all the way to Magdalena, and now Punta Arenas. It was awesome for a few days, very memorable. We are arriving to Punta Arenas.
This one. You is
May I have your attention, please? Welcome to Punta Arenas. The outside temperature is 12 degrees Celsius, equivalent to 54 degrees Fahrenheit. We kindly ask you to proceed to gather the Sky Lounge, deck number 4, or the Dining Lounge, deck number 5, where the disembarkment instructions will be given in the following minutes.
I think that's our escort. Our deck. It's Chile. We're gonna get on a bus and go to the yellow building. That's
so
customs.
we have to wait, get on the bus, go there and get off. After that we have to give them the paper and x-ray.
We are saying goodbye to our friends. And now the long ride to the custom house. Australis. It was a wonderful home for a few days.
Everybody, so
The dog is taking a poop. She's gonna clean it up. He's a working dog. We have Wi-Fi. I can go home.
well, welcome to continental Chile. Welcome to
Thank you.
Punta Arenas. I feel so much home. We're here.
Yeah.
Folks, let me first, before we move, this is one of my last trips of the season, Actually, the one before the last. And you always want to have great guides and all that, especially after the boat, because it's a great experience, but I can't explain how happy I am to have Maria Jose as our guide. Cota is her name. Cota. Hola, Cota. Hola. First, we're going to give this mic a try, and our driver, Patricio, or as we call him, Pato. Pato. Right, like a duck. Pato. Right? Pato.
Hola,
Let me try this. This lunch is going to be something we called charquican, is the name of that meal. What's that? It's a mixture of veggies, potatoes, corn, and to make it super nice, a fried egg on top. That's it. It's very simple, but it's very traditional. Very traditional and very tasty, right? I mean, the only change you want to make, if you want to make any change to the dish, is with or without the egg on top. Right?
Ooh.
Everything is related to calafate here. So that's our dessert, calafate. And then after lunch, we're going to have some time to see the main square. So first we go up, see, look out, come down.
Well, hello everybody. How are you?
Hello.
No? I see.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I cannot hear myself.
That's okay, we can
I
hear
feel
you.
like Punta Arenas is a city that has many different moments of birth. We started in 1843 when the Chilean state, the Chilean government, sees that the presence of French flags crossing through the strait was maybe jeopardizing our sovereignty far south. They sent 19 people to build a fort, navigating on the west, entering the Magellan Strait through the west. And after the colony tried to build some sort of economy, it was not successful at all. Weather here can be brutal, even in summer. So imagine a colony in 1843 trying to survive an hour south from here. That was not successful, so it wasn't until 1848 that the colony itself will try to move to an area where you could have better access to water, to energy, coal, to warm up the houses. And they found, by information brought by other expeditions, that there was an area called the Sandy Point. There was an area with an outwash plain from the glaciers, wide enough to build a city. And through this wash plain, we had 3 rivers coming down from the moraine down into the outwash plain and then the strait. And that was the location chosen. So the city was built then in this outwash plain, and we are driving up the moraine, right? So the Magellan Strait is a glacial landform. These are all sequences of moraines, sand, pebbles, glacial debris. And the city is on the sands. We're going to see very similar landscapes in Torres del Paine National Park, except that they don't have the houses in. But the city was crossed by 3 rivers. The rivers were redirected in the year 1950. So the moment of the kind of houses that you see here and the growth of the city is from around 1940. 1940s. We of course have palaces from 1989, but most of the houses that you see in this neighborhood are from the 1940s and 1950s. But it's a beautiful day, and you can get a better perspective of the city and where downtown and your restaurant is located from this lookout. And this is it. So the idea is to get off the bus, take some pictures, a few minutes. You're gonna find these locks that couples bring here because allegedly they're going to be together forever. But some of them have been smart enough to bring the lock with a password. Not password, but this thing that you use in your combination. They're so smart. So some of them have a combination just in case one of them decides to. All right, so here we go.
It didn't say it was okay, but I'm sure it is. What?
My God, he's brave. Is that smart though?
Not like one of us.
Would you do something like that? That seems risky, no?
It's muy loco.
Muy loco. Yeah, that's the way I would put it.
I mean, I've been on my roof.
Like that, without being tied?
Yeah, without being told.
Okay.
Just to walk across, not to work.
Okay.
We're short.
You're brave too then. I don't know if I would do it.
Well, this is a fine line between brave and stupid.
Yeah, I know that. Not for going on the roof, but I've done things myself. It's a beautiful point up here.
Yes.
You can see the entire city. My sense of direction is like all mixed up here. I would not have said that that's the south. No. Look, this one has a date. San Maria. Maybe be in love forever. Oh, this one has last names too. Good for them.
Unfortunately, I make telephone calls using Skype.
Okay. Okay, folks. You see how beautiful Punta Arenas is? It's a great place, you know. Folks, the plan now is to drive to the main square where we're going to get off and cross the street and go straight to the restaurant. I was telling Greer about, I was answering a question that I didn't answer 100%. You will see a lot of graffiti around the main square as we move. For sure we will see some more graffiti also that has to do with the political situation these days in Chile. And we do want to tell you about it, right? But we woke up early today for the penguins. Sometime, right? And then we will start talking about that because we will have a lot of time to talk about the situation, and I promise that let's review the graffiti. Number Sename, that is the service for like the orphans in the country. They take care, it's an organization, special centers for taking care of children. What else? An A of anarchy there. By the way, Chile has a very important history of the presence of anarchism. Right? Anarchist movement. It makes no sense, but I promise it's true.
Muerte al capitán.
Okay, there's the blue letters over there on the right says Muerte al Capital. It's like, let's burn the capital. That's it's a little bit too extreme. Huayhuaña is it's in Mapudungun, right? Mapudungun is the mother tongue of the biggest of the indigenous groups in Chile.
Shall we go eat?
Vamos a comer. Vamos.
That's a sacred symbol of the indigenous tribes. Olé. Wow, this is so pretty. Very cozy. Look at that. Oh, interesting. Oh, a nice balcony. Wow. That was a good choice. I like it. That's our bus. Beautiful little garden next door. Pleasant. And such a beautiful, beautiful day. And you have to leave these all dropping. That's an egg bien cocido. Well done.
Wow.
Awesome. Look at that. The cow was born here. It's regional. Look at this. It has a little onion on the side. Look at that. How it looks. Your little onion. Isn't that cute? I like the way they did it.
112 years old, maybe. Well, the Spanish society is still being organized. Still have discussions here. It's like a social thing. People come here and they still alive the Spanish traditions here in Patagonia, you know, and we are the owners of the restaurant, not of the building.
Oh, you are renting?
Yeah, we rent the space. Well, we are part of the Spanish society, but I'm Chilean, of course. Yeah, my grandfather was on my father's side, Basque.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, I know. we don't have a very nice reputation. No, I know that. Where are you from? Which part of the States?
I live in Sweden.
Oh, Sweden. Nice. New York? I live in New York.
Oh, really?
50th Street. Maybe over 4, 5, 8 blocks away from Central Park on 50th Street.
That sounds nice.
Were you working there?
Yeah, I was working there. Mainly I live in Vermont most of my time. Yeah, I'm not like a big city guy, so I was, let's go and leave New York. After a few months, it was too much. I'm more like a mountain guy. I was in pursuit of snowboarding, so I moved to Vermont and very good time.
They open kind of midday until 2, 3 in the morning.
To have you visit us like 3 days, every 3 days. 2 or 3 days a week we have people from the States here. Yeah, and the season is almost over. Maybe it gets colder, it gets lower, less people, windy, a lot of less light. Here in winter time, the sunset is 5 in the afternoon. Winter here, pretty much Patagonia is every year round, all year round. But our winter is from June, July, August. Your summer is our winter. I used to be young. I'm 37 years
Still
old.
young.
I have 3 kids.
What's the name of the artist that you said?
Huh?
The artist, the local artist. What's the name?
Mirko Violic.
Beautiful stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you. So all the paintings are done by your local artist. I think you said that he was Croatian.
What did we sing? At the count of 3.
Birthday cake. Rating should start cutting the cake. Okay. That's a tradition. It's not that I don't want to do it. It's just that that's the way it is, right? And while in Rome, right?
Remember, you cut little tiny pieces. No, you went away. I was going to send it to you, but you
Beautiful.
Take the first piece. First piece. Yes.
Thank you.
This is terrific. Okay. Great. Great. That's it. Let me give you a hand. Oh, that's too much. That's too much for you. The first one is for.
Calafate mousse. Beautiful. Nice. They did a good job decorating this place. And this is the ladies' room and the men's room. Cute, right? Oh, lovely meal actually. Simple but very good. So cute. Let's see. All right. He's adorable.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ah! Chile. Ooh, Palacio. Interesting.
Okay, so I'm waiting for the green light to bring her through.
Interesting.
When we became independent from Spain, different from what happened in the rest of Southern American countries, Chile became an island. And we are an island. We have the driest desert in the world up in the north. We have the Andes mountain range on the east. And then between the east and Pacific Ocean is where we stand. Dislocated, isolated, separated from the rest of Southern American countries. And that includes connection between indigenous groups that are quite separated from the rest of all indigenous tribes, maybe with the exception of the Mapuches, because the Mapuches occupied both east and west with the Andes mountain range in between. So the view of Chile regarding independence was based in the power controlled from the center. And this is a process called all for one. Santiago remains aristocratic, and in the fear of loss of power by rendering more power and autonomy to the provinces, this process called all for one started just a few years after Chile becomes a republic without a crown head. So you don't have a king, but now you have aristocrats that become the 1%. And this process that started in 1810 still has consequences to the year 2020. The power of the provinces, or as we call them, regiones, is based in the life of the indigenous. The reason we have with these divisions are all the indigenous tribes from north to Tierra del Fuego Big Island that don't feel Chilean, that were never rendered their space and territory to the Spanish crown. And when you become independent and you still want aristocracy to run the rules and the economy of the nation, who are going to be the enemy? The tribes themselves. They represent power for each region in the country. And the worst of all is that Chile ended, quote unquote, in a Spanish occupation in latitude 42 on the west. From latitude 42 down, the Andes mountain range is completely broken by glaciations. And in fact, you have glaciers. So when Chile comes to claim its sovereign rights over the Magellan Strait, they use a jurisdictional or a body of law with international support called Utis Possidetis. Utis Possidetis protects the rights over private property or land after you have won it with war. So after war, the land that you now own is protected by this body of law with international support. Brazil will be the first Southern American country to use a second body of law, Utis Possidetis de facto. And de facto means I use a land, I send sheep and a flag, and after a couple of years, by the use of that land for an industrial purpose, I claim ownership to it. Why am I telling you this? Because all the buildings around the main square are here because of sheep ranching. Extensive grazing production that started in the year 1873 with 90% of European immigrants. So if you were walking around this square in the year 1901, over 80% of the language in this square was a European tongue and not Spanish. I want to continue to the corner because there is a palace that I want to show you.
Abedul.
This concept of all for one from Santiago, because in these years of ports and the opening for commerce through the Magellan Strait and the arrival of ships and steamer companies and connection from Europe to the Northern Hemisphere through this strait, some people were able to get land concessions and get loads of money with the use of ranches. And remember that in the concept from a capital and provinces feeding the capital with power and money, you have a narratives in the country identity is very important. A narrative is based in the official story, not the real story of people. And the official story said by the late 1800s that the natives, the indigenous, were subhumans, unevolved people that should be eradicated, and we're actually doing a favor to them if we just exterminate them.
Oh my God.
Have you heard of phrenology?
Yes. Yes.
Phrenology arrived into Patagonia in the year 1829. And through all journals that you read, from Ferdinand Magellan to Captain Fitzroy, in the HMS Beagle, phrenology is mentioned somehow. So phrenology gives us this concept that if there were indigenous using the land and you wanted to exploit the land, what better idea than to hunt them, to get rid of them, and use the land to extract gold, right? Well, there was a woman that did not agree with this concept, and by destiny, she ended up with a very important amount of money from her late husband, and she built for herself, all alone, a palace, and it's this one. She hired a French architect. No one liked that she was hiring an architect to build a palace for herself, that she would not remarry, and she became friends with another very difficult woman that became later a Nobel Prize in Literature. The name of this woman is Sarah Braun Hamburger. So when she built this palace, the most powerful man in the land that hunted natives for gold exploitation was not very happy about what she had done, and he burned his house, his own house, a wooden building, and built a palace for himself with a tower at the top. You can see the tower from here. Jose Menendez, the king of Patagonia, used to go to the tower in the morning, and one of his butlers go up the tower with tea.
Oh my gosh.
And he would have his tea looking into the pier to check on the economic activities of his city and to look into Sarah's palace. They became business enemies, and later more things would happen. Sarah herself would be accused of anti-Catholic activities. She was too close to the Freemasons. And Gabriela Mistral, our Nobel Prize in Literature, became a very close friend, a friendship that would not end until Gabriela's passing in the 1950s. Jose Menendez, and you can see that this building has not been vandalized, right? I want to show you one more thing, and then
Oh, that's the Magellan flag, right? Strait of Magellan. Ah, handmade. Beautiful. Oh my goodness. Hola. Hola. Very pretty. Bye, sweetie, bye. Adios. Adios.
because the Chilean narrative has always placed the capital, the center, as the crown head of Chile, and all the rest of the provinces are sort of the degradation as you go deep into our indigenous roots. The deeper you go into the regions, the deeper you visit the provinces, the more indigenous people you're going to find. And Punta Arenas is a very good example of what happens when you create that narrative. You eradicate the natives and you place a new crown head, in this case, Jose Menendez. Gabriela Mistral arrived in 1918 in her 30s, fired up. This woman is a teacher from a very poor family, a woman, tall, oddly tall for Chilean standards, powerful. How do you say? She was not politically correct. She did not care about this new money, people, and she would live just 2 blocks from here. Her street did not have any sort of pavement, so she would come to Sara's palace with a cigarette, turn off the cigarette on the marble steps, and talk to her and say, "We need to stop this. We need education for everyone. We need to stop school segregation. We need to create a magazine where women are not going to read just about high heels and purses coming from Paris. We need them to bring changes. Educational curriculum needs to be changed. We need to open a school for adults. We need to open a public library." And she turned Sara into a philanthropist. This woman stops wearing fancy clothing and starts wearing very minimal clothing, and stops buying diamonds, and starts building hospitals, schools, boarding schools. So Menendez is not happy with her, and they run a political persecution against both of them that ends up with Gabriela being kicked off Punta Arenas in 1920 and Sara ostracized from her own family. Her brother agreed with Menendez, and her brother ran a company not with her but with Menendez. They become associates, and Sara steps away and creates another corporation with her father. So Sara Braun's companies and the Braun-Menendez companies are 2 separated institutions, but history will not, or historiography will not be delicate enough to separate her from her peers and family. They're all mixed together. And in Punta Arenas and in Chile, when you say Menendez, Menendez is known for all his actions against the natives, particularly the Selknams of Tierra del Fuego Big Island. Do you see the ears that people placed here? What comes to your mind with the ears in the monument?
He needs to listen.
Needs to listen? Well, that would have been great. He never did. Even his own children, when he died, they separated, they dismembered all the companies and fought over, there was a family feud over inheritance. He felt deeply betrayed, Menendez himself, but we say, cría águilas, cría cuervos, y te sacará los ojos. Raise crows, and you'll lose your eyesight later on, if you raise someone like that. Anyways, Menendez hired 4 hunters from North America and 1 guy from Lithuania to create an army to hunt people. If you were a Selknam in 1901, 1902, 1905, 1910, and you had lived for 8,000 years in Tierra del Fuego, chances are that Menendez was going to pay one of these hunters to hunt you and your family members. And how do you claim the money? You proudly show up to his offices with ears. Ears. And he pays you in gold for ears. So it's no surprise that in the year 1974, the mayor of the city asks the new military government to raise a monument and a bust for Jose Menendez. It seems like they shared some of this very particular philosophy that some people have to be treated differently for their color, political views, ethnicity, social, economic group. And in this turmoil that came with the demonstrations out in the city, a group of people, young people, came and took off Menendez bust. This is a dictatorship paying homage to the responsible for the loss of the Selknam sin Tierra del Fuego. This is paying homage to Hitler in a public square, returning to democracy and keeping the monument. And we had been asking since 1992 for this atrocity to be removed. And I can stand unbiased for some things, economy, but for this sort of things, I'm not going to be unbiased to make other people comfortable. It's not going to happen. I know exactly what I think about Nazis. Yes?
Yes.
The same with this. So they took the bust and they took it to our next step. Follow me, please.
Look at the years. Oh my God. This needs to be removed.
The figure in the monument that represents the land hunters of Patagonia, both Aonikenk and Selknam. People took pictures at the city hall, took the bust, and they have it in a storage facility. Something with house, I forgot what you call it.
Warehouse.
Warehouse? A warehouse. The funny thing is that we are divided right now in our opinion about the demonstrations and how violent they should be or not. It seems that when it comes to how demonstrations are run and how the cops are entering to this, how the government is doing that, we are divided. But very interesting. The newspapers printed a picture and put on the news a picture of what had happened with his bust. People, even our elderly, that are usually the ones to have a more moderate reaction to things, were the ones saying, well, we had been waiting for decades for the bust to be removed. There are places where we're not divided in our opinion, where we had to be inactive witnesses to things that were a hearsay, and sometimes you would not have a direct testimony because the testimony was afraid to be shared. This is what happens after 20 years of dictatorship.
Power to the people, anyway.
So you see the monument is vandalized. The bust was right there, and this is when you take the pulse on someone just to get a symptom. We can do a very long analysis, but I wanted to show you one of the aspects where we are not completely separated into our opinions. Certain moments in our history we don't feel deserve to have monuments. We have enough memory of what happened to keep an iconic figure in front of us, celebrating things that we are not celebrating anymore. We have a museum for memory, we have the testimonies of our families, the testimonies of friends, testimonies of colleagues. We don't need the bust of this person anymore with such an important date. Yes? This main square has seen many historical moments. The first city to publicly scream at Pinochet was 1984. Remember that El Punta Arenazo. General Pinochet stood right there on a military parade, and people from Punta Arenas started screaming at him like a song, and he was just looking around, just waiting, I guess, to give an order for these people to, you know what? And the gates of the cathedral were opened so that the people in the demonstration could find shelter inside and not pay the consequences, if you want.
Middle of a dictatorship, people screaming and shouting and calling the dictator assassin.
That's here. The process over there. Yes.
Oh, right over there.
You're saying assassin.
Hundreds of people calling him asesino over there.
Mostly teachers.
How did you get the video? You were here?
YouTube.
Oh, YouTube.
Everything.
Everything is on YouTube.
You see? These are very brave people. Kind of stubborn too.
And where, what happened? May I say a little?
Nothing to them. step forward. We can have different points of view, and maybe Luis agrees with the free market and I would like a mixed. I'm giving you a silly example, but there is a point where you cannot remain a man.
She's smelling his food.
And just your skin color or the shape of your nose can put you at danger. It's absolutely terrible. This is what's happening right now. We're going back to a lot of issues. But we also know that there were moments in our evolution as a country that are paying huge consequences today. That Santiago has 8 million people and we are 130,000 in the entire city. And so far away, you know, from reaching out into the advances of such a big capital. And maybe the provinces should have been given the federal power they wanted to have. They have no autonomy, no independence. Everything depends on what the crown-headed government style and oligarchy here is still running. So, anyways, this is a beautiful square. We know right now there's things happening, yes, but it was worth walking around a little bit to show this moment,
Thank you very much.
1901.
That's a good representation of the native.
No, well, it's a monument of the 1900s. And they look more like the Roman aesthetics of beauty.
Well, that is the statue. So that's, do you remember what he said?
Keeping an eye out on being clear for
to make the decision to come and build a city in 1843, what our government did since there were nothing but natives here. You know that oh, what's in the south? Oh, you know the Indios, and the Indios for this social dynamics that we had from the independence were the lowest of the low. So to make the decision to send that first group of immigrants, they revised all the journals and all the books and the scientific results of explorations that had come earlier from 1830 with Charles Darwin all the way back to 1520 with Ferdinand Magellan. So you're making a decision over sovereignty and the use of the Magellan Strait based in TripAdvisor. That's it. You use TripAdvisor when it comes to national progress and security. So different from what happened in Argentina and in other countries, in Chile the narrative says that the land has value if the land can be used for a certain kind of industry. So where I am extracting something, copper, gold, anything, then I go and claim. There I will go to war. But outside of that, the view is very different. So we're built based on this idea. Provinces, no autonomy, to benefit Santiago with all decisions and power, politics, etc. And the consequences were not just for us, but also for cities like Valparaíso, that at just around the same time, late 1800s, was becoming Le Petit Paris, the small Paris of Southern America. The best is to have your own, or the best would have been to have a Chilean description of Patagonia, and not based Patagonia's narrative in what happened to Darwin, for instance. By the way, if you read the HMS Beagle Adventures, you will see that Darwin hated South Patagonia. That this was so bad that the sailors used to say that the water was damned, that there was, like, the devil himself lived in Patagonia. And that was the narrative that was always used before the decision to send that 19 people in 1843. So I wanted to clarify that. On your right hand side here you have cormorants. These are rock cormorants on the old pier. This is where in 1920 Gabriela Mistral came with 2 suitcases and never came back. Never came back to Punta Arenas. Came back to Chile but never came back to our city. Alright, we're gonna take a few minutes for you to just relax. And then if something is worth stopping the bus for, we're gonna do that, and I'm gonna open the microphone again. But later today, yes?
No lo cierres.
No,